Daniels, he's going to keep. He's going to walk into the end zone. Here comes one to the cup. Left-hand layup, good.
Kansas is the 2023 WNIT champions.
This is the Jayhawker Podcast, presented by the University of Kansas Health System.
Well, here we are for another edition of the Jayhawker Podcast. I am Greg Gurley, along with Wayne Simien. We are joined by Luke Grimm, University of Kansas Health System, our big sponsor for the Jayhawker Podcast. Today we are remote. Couldn't get us everyone together, so we thought we'd do it this way, but wanted to welcome Luke Grimm, last week's hero from the BYU game. Only had 2 catches, but both of them were home runs. Luke, welcome to the Jayhawker Podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
You got to be just loving this. I mean, you've been around a long time. You're somewhat local, Raymore, Missouri. You come to town and, been through a coaching change, been through some tough times, but just talk about, we had Quentin Lassiter on. We've had some other guys that have been through the rebuild. Talk about how special it is to be a part of back-to-back 4-0 teams after what you endured only 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, coming here my freshman year and, COVID hitting and everything. And, there was literally not a fan in the stadium our first season. That no one was allowed. It was just, if you didn't travel, you had to sit in the stands because we weren't allowed to, all be on the sideline together. So just from that 4 years ago to, last Saturday with sold out stadium, and then last year with sold out stadium 3 times is awesome. And, going from not winning a game freshman year to 2 games sophomore year, and then 10 games over the last season and a half. It's a huge change. And, we've all been grinding under Coach Leipold and his staff, and a lot of people are surprised by the success that we're having, but everyone in the building understands that, this has been the goal and this is what we've been working for.
Man, Luke, did you see the turnaround happening this fast? Again, being a Kansas City area kid and Ray Peck in Missouri, I'm sure you had your eye on the Jayhawks during your recruiting process and thinking, hey, at some point in time, it'd be nice to get to this, but to be able to be here now, did you think that it would happen that fast? And then also, why KU? Growing up on the Missouri side with, other football programs in the state, in the area, what is it that stood out to you about wanting to become a Jayhawk?
Yeah. As far as wanting to come here, my wide receiver class was probably the biggest reason was how close I was with all of those guys in the class. Cause there was 9 of us, and there's only 4 of us here from that class still, but of that 9, all 9 of us have a group chat together from 5 years ago whenever we made it. And, we talk to each other every day. Other guys that are at other schools that transferred away, we all wish them good luck for their games, talk to them about how the games go. So that was the biggest for me, was how close I was with them and how special of a bond we created. And then it was close to home. My family would be able to see, my grandparents, my friends would be able to come to every game. They'd be able to go to, away games because, they go to Kansas State, Oklahoma, stuff like that, where it's not too far away. And then, for this turnaround, as soon as Coach Leipold's staff got here, I could tell that, it was a complete change of, leadership. It was a complete change of how things were going to be ran. But I knew that it was for the better. And I knew that, they were coming in, they meant business, and we were going to turn around quicker than anybody else thought.
Well, let's talk about BYU a little bit and your season as we run through the numbers. I mean, you've had 13 receptions, 175 yards, but 3 touchdowns, 2 of which came against BYU. You look at your receiving core with Lawrence Arnold, Jared Casey, Quentin Skinner, Trevor Cardell catches 1, and then you throw in Devin Neal because he's so dangerous out of the backfield. But talk about all the weapons that came back and how exciting it is to have a guy like Jalen Daniels that can sling it like the best in the country.
Yeah, having that group of guys in the receiver, tight end, running back room that is able to just, make plays after play. and just like create separation, create plays that, most people don't create. Like Devin, if there's a one-on-one, I'm taking him every single time against the other guy. And then Quentin Skinner, he's fast as lightning bolt, and he's just bolting down the field. LJ can, out jump, out catch. He's insane with his routes. And then like the tight ends, they're just like, every time one of our tight ends is making a catch, it seems like somebody's oohing and ah about it, whether it's, Mason over the shoulder last year against TCU, Jared this year, Trevor's acrobatic catch, stuff like that. And then, of course, the guy that's throwing it to us, Jalen, he's, putting it where only we can catch him and making it look like great plays that we're making.
Well, I know that Greg had talked about the type of season you're having this year. My mind can't help but go back to that incredible performance back in Memphis, Tennessee against the Razorbacks. You had 10 catches for 167 yards. Was even that game didn't finish like we all hoped it would. Was the productivity and the confidence that you built from that last game of the season in 2023 help you have that same type of confidence getting off to such an incredible start this year?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I like to try to prove as many people wrong as I can, because growing up in high school and, in Little League, a bunch of people just like said I was too small. I wasn't going to be good enough. I couldn't make it at this level. And so, to just constantly prove them wrong and keep proving myself that I know why I'm here with a game like that to end the year where, everyone was like, oh, it's SEC. This is real. Like, this is real defense. This is going to be real ball. And to just show them that, I am the receiver who I think I am, really builds a lot of confidence for me. And then, like, as far as our team, Jalen throwing for 500 yards and us putting up 53 points, that was a big confidence for us of, we are the team on offense who we think we were. We could score with anybody. We could hang with anyone.
Well, we just covered offense, but I think the big question mark throughout the offseason after the Liberty Bowl was, what was the defense going to be able to do? We know all the weapons back on offense, Kansas was going to be great, and Jalen throwing it around, but talk about the defense and how much energy that gives you. Last week, 2 touchdowns scored by the defense. Kobe Bryant, which will be the hit of the year, hit, scoop, score, and then the interception to start the second half to run it back. How much energy does that give you guys when the defense can go out and do what they did?
Yeah, I was at the end of the game, I was talking to Coach Samuel about it. We go 4 and out after that, or we go for it on 4th down and don't get it. And, 2 plays later, we're kicking the ball off because our defense just scored a touchdown. So we went from, a low of, we don't want to turn the ball over in that sense in any fashion. We want to score every time we get on the field. But the fact of the defense is scoring for us and multiple times in the same game, that's about as big as it gets from them. And from a defensive perspective, to put up 14 points, that's huge. And, I could have told you that it was going to happen, and it probably will happen again. The amount of energy and passion that our defense plays with right now is it's obvious to us that it's a result of how hard they practice from spring ball to fall camp to every practice throughout the week. The guys are flying around, even if it's, we're going in spiders and we're not even tackling each other, we're just tagging off. People are simulating like they're making big hits on people and, trying to strip the ball out, going for interceptions, trying to force fumbles. So it's no surprise to anybody in the Kansas facility.
Man, well, that certainly was an incredible play that Kobe Bryant had made. But actually, up until that point last Saturday, my favorite play for the season was the 48-yard snag that you made against Illinois going into halftime. Illinois kind of took the little bit of the momentum, having a couple quick scores, tying the ball game there, and you made a circus catch. Walk us through what that was like. Walk us through that play. Walk us through the long jump ball that you had to get, your timings, bringing it down. Just help us get a better insight to what you were thinking as that play developed.
Yeah. So I was running an over route, and I look about 10 yards at the middle of the field to try to gauge if I'm going to go, behind a backer, under a safety, where that, middle defender is. And when I look back, I saw JD was scrambling out to the right. And so we work scramble rules all the time when you got to get in phase with the quarterback, and you got to look and see where, the receivers on that side of the field are. And the receiver behind me was Quentin, and he was on the sideline, and I looked at him and he worked down the field. And so I'm like, I've got to work up the field. And as I'm working up the field, I look behind me and I don't see anyone. So I'm like, I've got to be wide open. There's no one near me. So I just keep going. And at the same time as I did that, I see JD point to go up the field, and he launches it. And that defender is, coming, running towards me, and I'm facing to him. So I know that it's going to be an easy catch for me as long as I don't telegraph that the ball's right here and I'm about to catch it. So I would just wait until he got to my body and then just jump like this over his side. And it was, like you said, it was a circus catch, but to the wide receiver room, it's a catch that we work on all the time.
Ooh, I love it. I love it that a circus catch to a fan, a catch that made the whole stadium erupt, the catch that actually led to a touchdown a few plays later. You guys call that routine. I love that.
That's a layup. Just a layup.
Yeah, because he's not looking. So it's like he can't do anything besides just hope that we don't catch it. And it's our job to catch footballs. So we might as well get good at it.
That's right, man. Do your job.
Yeah,
that's our thing. Do our job. That's what we're out there to do.
Control the controllables, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I want to go back to Coach Leipold and his staff, and how about your maturation as a Kansas Jayhawk, and what you went through with the old regime, and just kind of tell everybody how it's different. You mentioned that, hey, this is real. We got real guys. We got real coaches. Wayne and I talk about it all the time, that all 10 of the assistant coaches were retained last year. And that rarely happens across college football because guys are getting jobs. But talk about the continuity with you and Coach K, you and Coach Leipold, and just the coaching staff and the whole just atmosphere around the Anderson family complex.
Yeah. As far as bringing everybody back in a sense of coaching staff, and then a lot of people staying, I think it's just a lot of people are, excited of what we can do this year based off of what happened last year. And they know that we need everybody, coaching staff, player wise, that was here last year to do it again. Everyone, as far as an offensive perspective with Coach K, we do so much with the coaching staff throughout the year, where, we're going to the coaches' houses and we're playing, pickup basketball. We're playing video games in the basement and stuff like that. Or, we're going over to Coach Samuel's house as a wide receiver group, and we're watching Thursday night football every week. And he gets us wings, and we all hang out with his family and just chill for a couple hours a day. Stuff like that, where it makes you feel more like a family and more connected than just a player-coach relationship.
Man, I want to get into your head a little bit more, because something you said earlier got me curious as you were talking about people kind of doubting you when you were coming up through high school and being recruited. And, it is true, man, when you look at other receivers on our roster, other receivers across the Big 12, college football, 6'4", 6'6", long, high jumping guys. And that's not necessarily your frame. And so what is it about your mindset, or what is it about a detail or facet of the game that helps set you apart to make you such a lethal weapon in the receiver corps?
Yeah. Like you said, height and, jumping ability is not, I'm vertically challenged, as some people would say. I'm not 6'5", but as far as, giving myself an advantage in the game, I like to think that I understand football really well and can understand defense on the fly as I'm running. And so a lot of the times when I'm running routes, I'm not running at 100%. I'm running 85, 95% of my total speed, just to be able to gauge, what this corner's doing or what the high safety's doing. And I know that I have, two ways I can run the route versus, man or zone. And it all dictates, off of what this defender's doing, how he plays, what his tendencies are. Watching film gets you a lot of like little things to look at when you're playing the game. And whenever you understand, your entire offense, when you understand football, you can play slow and you don't have to think, and the game slows down. Whereas, a lot of the times, a lot of people think that it's like it's fast. We're going fast. We're going fast. We're going fast. But everyone on the football team on the offensive side is trying to slow it down so you can just understand and control how you run, how you're working your routes, what techniques you use, and just trust in like what the coaches tell you to do.
Well, I'm glad you said that, and I'll kind of bring it back to, I know you and Travis Kelce are different, but he finds holes in the defense, just like what you said. You don't have to be the greatest athlete. You don't have to be the tallest, the fastest, the jumps the highest. You got to learn the game, find the soft spots, and take advantage of them. And we see it in all sports, whether it's Larry Bird in basketball wasn't a great athlete, but he was a great rebounder, and he figured out how to position. And I kind of, from what you just explained, that's kind of the way you approach it. Again, you're not going to outrun anybody or outjump anybody, but you find those holes in the defense, and football IQ is a big part of it, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's huge. You can be as fast as you want, but if they just play 30 yards off, like there's certain things where it's a lot easier to just play the game slow than it is as fast as you can.
Are you a Swiftie?
My girlfriend is. We had fall camp the day of Taylor Swift's concert, and she tried to get me to go. And I was like, I got to get up at 5 and be in the facility till 9 p.m. I am not going to Taylor Swift concert tomorrow.
Are you a little bit of a Travis Kelce fan? Because if I remember correctly, you had the stash going pretty solid there earlier.
Yeah, no, Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce is a beast. I love that. He's obviously he's the best tight end in football and probably going to be the best tight end of all time. But he's a beast. His mustache is amazing. And I wish I could grow a mustache like that.
So upcoming, here we are, Texas week, going to Austin. You talk about real football, top 5. They go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama a few weeks ago and knock off the Crimson Tide. Quarterback, receivers, defense, athletes, 80,000 plus. Talk about how you guys are approaching this week and talk about the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah. Defensive wise, Texas, they're a great team. They're top to bottom solid. There's not a weak point on their defense or offense. They play football really well, and it shows on film, and that's why they're a top 5 team in the country. As far as us, we just had our Tuesday practice today. We're blaring music as loud as we can to simulate that crowd noise. We've got crowd noise blaring as loud as possible. Everybody's covering their ears in the huddle, making sure that, we're on our P's and Q's, focused on every detail. But for our week of prep, we're keeping the main thing, and that's play Kansas football.
What's the transition like now that Kansas football is no longer a surprise to the opponent? Kansas football can no longer go on the road and sneak up on the opponent. People are expecting real competitive football to be played. And so now a Texas team that was maybe surprised and shocked a few years ago there in Austin, Texas, is now expecting a top-tier team to show up, which you guys will this Saturday. Yeah,
heard that a lot coming in my freshman and sophomore year was, it's Kansas week, we get to chill. The starters will be out by halftime, stuff like that. And, that's, to us, that's as disrespectful as it gets because, we're all college football players here. We're all playing Power 5 football, and we wanted to turn that around as quick as possible. So where, it's not, can we keep this game close? We're going to be in every game no matter what. And this weekend, we will do the same thing.
Before we let you go, and I know next week's game is on the road, but as a guy who's been around a while, who experienced some of those very, very lowly attended games a few years ago, talk about how much it means to you and your teammates and everybody in that football complex when you run out of that tunnel and see the student section the way it is and a sellout last week. Talk about how much energy and just feel good it is for you guys to know that you're the reason they're out there and what it does for you.
Yeah. Freshman year when there was nobody besides maybe a couple parents every now and then, you're running out of the tunnel and it's like, the fans are what make a college football game a college football game. Every time you think of, college football on TV, you think of sold out crowds. The fans are buzzing the first play of the game when the opposing team has the ball. It's as loud as it can possibly be. Every third down's as loud as possible. So, coming out of the tunnel against BYU this past weekend, and it's packed and everyone's screaming, everyone's cheering, it just makes it that much more special because you're not only doing it for, all 11 guys on the field with you and all 100 on the sideline, but you're doing it for all some odd thousand in the stands cheering you on.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate your time, Wayne, and I love having you on. We love watching you go out there and dealing. I'm excited about Saturday, 2:30 in Austin, Texas. Ranked teams, 2 top 25 teams, Kansas in that 20 range and Texas in the top 5. So we know we can do it. We can do it.
Yes,
we got to prove to the whole world that we can do it. It wasn't that long ago with the 2-point conversion with Jared Casey. So we know we've had success down there. And obviously they know that you've had success down there and they're sick of probably hearing it. So you're going to get a pissed off Texas team, but hey, that's the way you like it, right?
Yes, sir. It's the best way to do it.
Well, Luke, thank you so much for joining us today on the Jayhawker Podcast. You've been great. Looking forward to the rest of the year. We're going to go bowling again, come home 5-0 after a big win in Austin, taking on Central Florida the following week. But again, appreciate your time, and we'll see you soon. Rock Chalk.
Thank you, guys. Rock Chalk.
That was Luke Grimm here on the Jayhawker Podcast. Take a quick break. Brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System and the President Hilton, downtown Kansas City. We'll be right back, and Wayne and I'll talk a little more Jayhawk Nation. Back here for the Jayhawker Podcast, brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System and the Hilton President Downtown Hotel. Just had Luke Grimm on as our guest, the hero, or one of the heroes from last week. Luke had only 2 catches, but they both were for 6 points. I mean, he's been great. Such a reliable possession receiver and a touchdown maker. We talked about Kobe Bryant's hit, which I was talking to a few guys, and it reminded me, I know it's not as big as the Jadeveon Clowney hit at South Carolina when he did that in the bowl game that propelled him into the number 1 pick. But that hit had that kind of ferocious, violent to it that was shocking that we've seen some things being called targeting and that not, even though it was a 100% clean hit and correctly called that way. But we've seen other hits like that get called back. He had his head out, got him with his shoulder, got the ball, scooped and scored. And then, like we talked about, that interception, that was your prototypical tip drill that we ran into it for 7 points early in the second half after going down at halftime. So a huge win against the Cougars, 38-27. Now on to Austin, Texas, where we're going to have some Austin, Texas Longhorn fans that don't really like Kansas a whole lot because the last 5 years they've lost to us a couple of times. We've had gotten a couple coaches, one coach probably fired, and Sarkisian was the coach when we went down there and got him his first year in Austin. But big boy contest come Saturday at 2:30.
Yeah, a little bad blood there, obviously, with the outcome in Austin last time, but it's pretty interesting. I don't know about you, Greg. I've had a lot of Jayhawks reach out asking for tickets, letting them know where tailgate is. It sounds like we're going to have a pretty significant showing of Jayhawks that are going to be showing up to Austin, at least to the folks that I've been communicating with, and it's great. But man, how cool is Luke Grimm? I mean, if he wasn't someone that you could automatically cheer for, anyways, just kind of his blue collar work ethic, kind of a seemingly a underdog receiver, just because he doesn't have that prototypical build. But man, what a pleasant young man to have on and to engage and interact with. And he's gone up a couple notches in my book. I mean, he was already high, just again because you mentioned his reliability and his big time playmaking ability. But man, that was really great to get a chance to connect with him.
Yeah, and he's been battling through some injuries. And a couple of weeks ago, we were told that he was a maybe for the Illinois game, and he came out and had that big catch as you referenced. And man, 2 big scores, and it's so pretty to watch when Jalen Daniels throw the ball. I mean, he did that little right corner to the end zone, perfectly delivered pass, and that other one on the north end where he caught it right on the end line. And but it's a team effort. You know, you look at the receiving with Lawrence Arnold, Jared Casey, Quentin Skinner, Trevor Cardell had a really acrobatic touchdown catch as well. That as much credit as we give Jalen Daniels, Trevor Cardell made Jalen look good on that one because it was behind him and he caught it. But having a receiving core with the tandem of a great quarterback is such a dangerous thing. And then when you throw in that defense to get 2 scores, Luke talked about how much energy and confidence it gave them where they don't have to go out there and do everything because this defense. And I think that was the one thing I talked to people about all year was like, okay, we got a ton of offensive weapons coming back, but what is the defense going to do? Because we know how high-powered this conference is. We're going to score 40 to 50 points. Can the defense hold them to less? That was the big question. And, holding BYU to 27 points, obviously new to our league, but BYU's, you've watched them for many, many years. They've always been somewhat of an offensive juggernaut, and Slovis for them could really throw the deep ball, but we hold them to 27 points. And in this day and age of college football, if you can hold a team to 27 points, you got a great chance of winning, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, you do. And, when you think about the 4 games that we've played, other than the Missouri State game, there really hasn't been any significant like blowout or point margins. Illinois hung around. We were sluggish in Nevada, and actually against BYU, it was a 1-score ball game late into the second half, even into the fourth quarter. And so I think that's going to serve us well, especially going into Austin, is because we're going to have to learn how to, when we do have a 1-score lead, stave off offenses from trying to come in and get that last score that could win the game. And so hopefully these experiences that we've had these last three football games will help build some confidence defensively, and when we get into late game situations when the game is still potentially close.
Well, you and I have been around a long time. We've seen a lot of football, obviously not experts on it, but what I do like about this team is that we've won all those games you mentioned. We've won in a bunch of different ways. Nevada, we weren't great. We're a massive favorite, end up winning by 7, doesn't matter. It was a win, but it's always the sign of a good team when you don't have your best stuff and you go and win, because I think we're all pretty confident in saying that 5 years ago, if we play like that against Nevada, against that same team, we probably lose that game. And those are the type of games that make a season. You have to get those wins. We're down at half to BYU, right? And, we felt like we were playing better than them, but we're still down, and the defense steps up. So we've won games in a multitude of ways to get these first 4 wins. And you have to win those games to get to your ultimate goal, which is a bowl game, and a better bowl game than just last year getting 6 wins and minimally qualifying for a bowl game. That's where we were last year. Now we want to get to 9 wins, to 10 wins and up. And it all starts on Saturday at Texas. And again, this is a legit Texas team. I mean, Xavier Worthy, you look at Quinn Ewers, and they got guys. They got pros. We know that. We got pros too. But the question will be, you're on the road. It's always more difficult. We can't have the type of performance that we had against Nevada going to Austin, or it'll be a long day.
And we gotta rewind it back a little bit to Saturday. For those of you that were in the booth, How cool was the flyover? I mean, that was incredible, man. 2 F-35s buzzing around. I think we got about three sightings of them in that short little span of time. Kudos and big shout out to local Leavenworth guy, KU alum, James Elliott, for helping to orchestrate that whole deal. And those things aren't
sticky
to pull off, especially when we got a missing F-35 earlier in the week. We got weather patterns coming through that could derail it, and I'm so glad that was able to come. And then, of course, we had another famous KU alum with military ties, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, on the sideline, making an appearance there for all the incredible things that he does for Folds of Honor, helping families of lost veterans. So it was really kind of an incredible experience all around on Saturday. But, of course, it's great and all capped off when we get a win. And Greg, you mentioned it. We are definitely not experts in football, but one thing we are experts in, Kansas basketball. And boom, we got the schedule release. We've been waiting for it. You got it in your hands right now. Okay, I need to know right now, where do your eyes first go when you get your hands on the conference schedule?
I'd say early on, we start the Big 12 season out at home against TCU, which they've really been on an uptick. They did lose a lot of guys, so we'll see about that one.
And beat us last year in the field house as well.
That's right. So we go right after that, first time ever, to Orlando to play University of Central Florida on January 10th, a couple of road games. I look at January 20th playing at West Virginia. You know, obviously so much talk with the Huggins situation and then the coaching change. But before all that, they were kind of the talk of the town when it comes to the transfer portal with the combination of NIL. And it's, you know, Brian and I, at the end of every year, we'll look at a roster when we're playing them for the last time and wonder, like, okay, used to be you could be like, all right, well, he's gone. And then these guys are the only ones coming back, and this is their freshman class. Well, that's not the case anymore because you have absolutely no idea who's going to be back. And I can't tell you who from last year's West Virginia team will be back, but I know they got a couple guys. They got that transfer from Syracuse who's a big athletic guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but you got Kerr Kriisa from Arizona. That was a real fly in the ointment for a lot of Pac-12 teams. So he's making the cross-country journey. So I look at West Virginia, get a Cincinnati at home, and at Iowa State. You know, Houston, February 3rd in Allen Fieldhouse. Kelvin Sampson does an amazing job down there. I mean, they were a 1 seed again last year, didn't make the Final Four, made the Final Four the year before, but he does an incredible job down there. And, you know, obviously your Baylor's got back-to-back games on the road, February 12th and 17th, Texas Tech and Oklahoma. Last time we're going to see Texas. We'll obviously have a lot of guys back with Tyrese Hunter, Dessou, guys like that. We don't go to Austin, which last year it's frustrating to me that the last time we're ever going to be in Austin was last year when we got beat at that new arena. Beautiful arena, but that is one of the unbalanced schedule games that will not be on the road for us in Austin because we got so many guys. I've kind of dominated this. Do you have the list in front of you, or do you want me to go through it all?
Not the full list, but my eye immediately goes to where are the Saturday, Monday quick turnarounds, all right? And you mentioned two of those games just by sheer matchup, but you didn't mention the games that were right to follow. So you mentioned at West Virginia on January 20th, where we play Cincinnati, first time that they come into the field house as they're getting ready for their Big 12 debut. But historically, Cincinnati has been a really, really, really solid basketball program for a very long time, much in part to Bob Huggins and the job that he was able to do there. But just that whole Ohio, Rust Belt, kind of steel, kind of gritty.
It's always kind of gray and cloudy.
But they always play tough. It's really indicative of the type of teams that they have, tough and athletic. And so that's going to be an interesting one with that big travel day coming back from West Virginia. You mentioned Houston coming into the field house on February 3rd. And, Kelvin Sampson is probably one of the few coaches in the league now that comes to the field house and doesn't flinch because he's had success here before, all the way back when he was in Oklahoma. And then we follow that up with the game on Monday at K-State, which is always a tough place to play. when you've got the Sunflower Showdown, and then of course that last game, because I think the league does it on purpose. But usually our last game of the regular season conference they usually try to set it up to be the conference finale, where there's like championship, ramifications at stake. Usually we play Baylor, usually we play at Texas, and then who is it this year? It's Houston, March 9th. On my birthday, I'll be 41. I'll be looking forward to a win on the road at Houston, hopefully to clinch yet another Big 12 championship for Coach Self and the Jayhawks.
Yeah, and then right before that, on March 5th, will be senior night in Allen Fieldhouse against Kansas State in the Sunflower Showdown. Now, senior night doesn't have the same kind of bang that it did before because, I don't know, I'd have to think about our seniors. Obviously, Kevin McCullough in his 8th year of college, he'll finally be a senior. But a lot of guys could be seniors, but it's just, this day and age, it's just different. It's not the 45-minute senior speech that Wayne gave in, what year was that? 03 or 05? I'm sorry. It's still on the clock because I think it's you and Jordan Juneman with the longest speech ever.
Hey, we'll take it. We put a lot of work in, man.
That's all your response? You don't have that's just generic response like that? Come on, you can
put a lot of work in, man. Had a lot to say, a lot of people to thank.
I'm trying to elicit some trash talk or something, but
no.
Too
I mean,
nice.
Well,
You're too nice.
It's funny because Coach Self gives me a hard time about that speech, even to this day, 20 years later, and how long it was. And he's pretty long-winded on the mic as well. Whenever he
now, that's a good point. He does throw a lot of shade at guys that talk a long time, and then you're like, okay, well, I asked you a 12-second question, and you just gave a 37-minute answer. It happened the other day. We were with some BYU folks, and he talked for a long time. Pretty typical, right?
Yeah. But it's a special occasion, and guys will never forget it. And very rarely do you have a time to have a mic in front of an audience that size that cares about the program so much. So, and I'm fine. Hey, sign Kevin up for another year. Sign DeJuan up for another year. I'm just fine with unorthodox senior nights because we get to keep some good guys around a little bit longer.
And then the only other thing to talk about in the schedule, that the Big 12 tournament, which is always in Kansas City, will actually be a 5-day tournament now with the additional teams. It's going to start on Tuesday.
Didn't think about that.
Which, so get used to that.
So else, man, more basketball to watch.
Yeah. What else we got to do that week?
For Philip Stranad down at the President Hotel, man, more rooms to book.
That's right. More rooms, more nights. Philip Stranad at the President Hotel downtown Kansas City. Great sponsor of this podcast. Next week, we've got the Late Night in the Fog. This is, I got to do the math. I want to say 38, maybe 38th or 39th Late Night in the Fog. Flow Rida will be their name. 2 Flow Rider songs. Wayne, go.
Who?
Yeah. No, it's not the Who.
Oh, okay. My bad. Yeah, I don't know any of his songs.
You need to get down for real and check it out.
Oh, I see what you did there. You tied both those in there together. Well played.
Maybe I should have prepped you, put it in your script or whatever. Come on. It's Flow Rida. And you can't
I don't know any Taylor Swift songs either. My bad, bro.
I can name that Shake It Off is about it. That's I've heard that one a lot. But I live with are your girls Swifties?
No, but they were aware and pretty frenzied at the rumor that she was in Lawrence, Kansas yesterday. I don't know if that's been confirmed nor fully denied. Anyone figure that out?
Robbie Jeffries from our office was at lunch at Free State yesterday, and he said he walked out and there was like 250 people out there, students, and they were all bugging him. And he goes, I don't know, we just had lunch. We didn't see her. But he came into my office. He goes, I just had one of the weirdest lunches. But I that's all it takes is just tweet it out that she's there, and they will show.
Hey, just don't mess with our Chiefs football season.
Yeah, I hope this all works out. I don't want to hear the next album. The next album
for defending Super Bowl champions' sake, not for anything else other than to defend the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I just don't want a song called like 87 because it didn't work out. whatever. But that's a whole nother deal. I'm sure it'll be great. They seem to be enjoying themselves. Volleyball split down at Texas Tech last week. A little frustrating on that first one as you talk to our volleyball program, but we're able to lose the first match and then got them on the second day, still in the top 25, had a couple weeks off for golf. And so just gearing up for this big one Saturday against Texas. And then, oh man, can you imagine coming home 5-0 and then Central Florida comes to town and they were in Manhattan last week and they're going to go home and then come back to our great state. So hopefully we can greet them the same way they did up the way just to the west of us and send them out of here. So big weekend. Looking forward to watching that one. You mentioned how many people wanted to go to that game. Like I just got a text from Devontae Graham wants to go to that game. He's in San Antonio, not far away. Got a lot of my donors that I deal with on a daily basis that are making the trek down there. And that just, I say that like that's common. It's really not. I mean, this is a show and they want to see the show on the road. And, visiting teams don't get very good tickets, but when you're watching the game, look in the upper, corner, there's going to be a lot of blue and red up there. And again, we do the same thing for our visitors. So it's not like Texas is doing something wrong, but it is what it is. And we got a nice contingent going down there and hopefully we can get out of there. Man on an island mentality. We talk about it with basketball all the time. You're in your little bubble. Nobody cares that you're in Austin, Texas. They not going to say nice things to you, but that almost makes you closer. I mean, you and I experienced that as Kansas basketball players. We got everybody's best shot. Now it's a little different in football because of where we're making that climb to. But man, it's a kind of a man on an island mentality. Like you got to go take it and get it done and get out of there with the win. And one of the greatest things ever is what? On the road, hearing that Rock Chalk chant.
True. It's true.
How many good memories did you have at the you were probably Missouri, not the Hearn Center, but Bramlage.
No, my favorite was in Colorado, at Boulder. At Boulder was a favorite. All of our Western Kansas fans, it was easier for them to get to Boulder, Colorado than to Lawrence, Kansas. Got a great alumni base in the Denver area. That was my favorite spot to hear the Rock Chalk chant on the road.
All right, big fella, that'll do it for another edition of the Jayhawker Podcast. Luke Grimm, many thanks for coming on with us. He was great. Look for him to be great again on the field along with his teammates. Volleyball back at it. Next week, late night, Friday night, come to Lawrence and spend the weekend. Come up on Thursday. Hit all the spots. Go to late night on Friday. Pack the booth once again for Central Florida. But first things first, take care of business down in Austin, Texas. I am Greg Gurley. That is Wayne Simien. This is the Jayhawker Podcast brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System and the Downtown President Hotel, Hilton Hotel, Phillips Trenard, right across the street from Power and Light in the T-Mobile Center. Call Phillip and get booked today, December 30th versus Wichita State, and obviously the Big 12 tournament. Jayhawker Podcast, Rock Chalk.